Hello and welcome to today's video. A few months ago now, I made a video where Pulp Addiction and I collaborated, and they sent me 5 unlabeled ink samples, and I tried to guess what they were, and then in envelopes they said what they were, and I revealed it. We've done it again. I have 5 new unlabeled ink samples here, just with a number on them, and the 5 corresponding envelopes here, and I've done writing samples with them, I've done swatches with them. We're going to look at those, I'm going to talk about them, and then I'm going to make a little prediction about each, and then we'll reveal what they are. Fun little game. I love this. I love putting my knowledge of ink to the test, and I love finding new inks and being proved wrong. So let's get started. Okay, number 1, purple color coming through the little sample vial, and this is the swatch. Now, this is a vibrant purple with a really strong gold pink shimmer to it. As I said, I don't know what these inks are, so I'll be filling this in later. But ink number 1 here, it looks really interesting. I haven't seen this ink that I'm familiar with before. I'm not a huge shimmer sort of collector or user, so this one is one of the ones that does have me a little bit stumped. Next, vial number 2, sort of like a grey-blue sort of color, and this is the swatch. So it is a sort of a pastel-y blue with this sort of pink multi sort of chroma kind of stuff in it. I've got a couple of ideas of brands this might be, but as to which particular ink, I'm not sure. Number 3 now, and a sort of a darker tealy green, and this is what we get. I love this kind of color family, and I've got a bunch of them, and I've loved a bunch of them. So I have some ideas, but once again, not exactly sure which of those it might be. And then we get number 4, which is a sort of a rich orange color, and this is the swatch. And this one I do have a pretty good idea, at least the brand. It's got a unique kind of feel on the page, and it's a color that I'm not going to say I know exactly what it is, but it's a color that is extremely close to something I use semi-regularly. And then number 5 is a black. This is so hard. Like, I know we all joke that we all have a bunch of black inks and we can tell them apart at sight, but this is hard when you don't know anything about it, to just get a black ink. Deducing what this might be, no idea. Absolutely stumped on this one. So these are the 5 anonymous inks. I haven't shown you anything else yet because I'm hoping you'll start to form your ideas of what they may be. As I said, these have all come from Pulp Addiction, and a massive thank you to the team there for playing along with this game and just going way above and beyond with how they go about this. I'm so grateful. Let's look at them on some paper now. Okay, so I've done a little writing sample with each on Rhodia. This is 80 GSM Rhodia paper. So number 1 is a little more blue here than I kind of expected. Still got that beautiful shimmer, of course, not coming out quite so strong here. But it's not a super wet ink, but it's got sort of a nice sort of blue-purple tone. Number 2, that multichroma, once again, looks absolutely beautiful. It's very light on the page. When I started writing with this as opposed to the swatch, it got me even more sort of confused because I thought I may have known what the ink was, and then this doesn't quite line up. Number 3, once again, a color family that there are so many inks for, but a beautiful tealy sort of green color. Nice and wet, good flow, a little bit of sheen, which is nice, but just a beautiful color family. Then number 4, it's a little less rich on Rhodia. Nice wet ink, nice sort of flow on the page, actually beautiful flow on the page. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I know at least what brand this ink is. And then number 5 is a black. It's not the darkest black going around, but it is quite black. It feels a little sort of like undersaturated or something. But, you know, it's writing very nicely. It would be a nice everyday black, but I don't feel it's one of the everyday blacks that I use. but interesting nonetheless. Okay, so now let's look at these on Tomoe River, where I've done a little bit, a bit more sort of guesswork. Okay, so we'll start with them here on Tomoe River. That shimmer there on the number 1 ink is absolutely awesome. A bit of shading as well, which is really nice. The shimmer and everything looks beautiful in the writing. There's low water resistance, still wet after 30 seconds, so a fairly wet ink. My guesses here is that this is either a Diamine shimmer or a Van Diemen's ink shimmer, but my thought about the Van Diemen's is that it doesn't feel wet enough to be Van Diemen's. Van Diemen's inks feel very wet on the page. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm not particularly familiar with the Diamine shimmer inks. And I know that they've included a whole lot more in their range, given like the advent calendars or Inkvent calendars, which I haven't partaken in yet for various reasons. But I'm just not exactly sure. So we'll take this little moment here to bring that card back up, and just this is not a shimmer ink. I don't have anything shimmers like this in my collection. But in terms of the base purple color, Robert Oster Bishop to King is very similar. Now, I don't think this is a Robert Oster. As far as I'm aware, Robert hasn't made an ink of that sort of shimmer style, but it's that same kind of base color, I think. That sort of nice blue purple. Now we get to number 2, and that multi-chroma ink is so beautiful. It's so on trend at the moment. You know, we sort of went through big shading inks and really big sheening inks and shimmerings, and I think now multi-chroma are becoming a real thing. So it's got a beautiful shading pastel multi-chroma ink, blue-grey with the pink, quite a wet ink, but it lays down a nice enough line. Super wet flow, like on this paper, like super wet, and low water resistance. So my ideas here are that it's a Robert Oster multi, and I thought it might have been Romeo and Juliet, but I'm not entirely sure now. Romeo and Juliet is a beautiful multi-chroming ink from Robert Oster, but I think it's a slightly different blue, and I'll show you that in a second. The other thought is it's one of the Sailor inks. I know a lot of the Sailor Studio inks kind of multi-chroma, and I think there's a lot of the Magno inks as well, and I know Pulp Addiction have stocked them at least in the past. But here is the number 2 unlabeled ink swatch again. And here is just a standard Robert Oster lighter blue, which is Day, which has a little bit of the multi-chroma happening, but nothing like this. And there's Robert Oster's Romeo and Juliet. So that's a lot more green blue than the blue of this, but they are both that multi-chroma. So this Robert Oster is a potential color for this, a brand for this, but it's definitely not that Romeo and Juliet like I thought it may have been on first swatch. Now we move to ink number 3, and I've said, wow, what a color. Yeah, this color family is something that I really, really love. Nice shading, no shimmer, but some sheen, which is great. Beautiful flow, good vibrant saturation. So even in the lighter shading, you just get hits of that color. Not super wet there, but it feels nice and like it's wet on the page. And then we've got a mid to low water resistance. My ideas for this were Diamine or Oster. There are a few Diamines, I think it's a little lighter than Aurora Borealis, maybe more green than something like Diamine Schubert. And there's a number of Robert Osters that it's very similar to, things like Marine or Tranquility, stuff like that. I've also said it could be a Van Diemen's ink, but once again, that same thing of it not feeling super wet, not in comparison to some of those Van Diemen's. I've got a unique sort of feel on the page, and feel is a thing. Feel is really a thing with fountain pen ink. Here is the swatch of it, and I've got 2 Robert Osters here. So I've got Marine and Tranquility. Now, Tranquility is one of my absolute favorite colors, and Marine is exceptionally similar to it, just not quite as green. This lines up closer with Marine. I'm not sure if this is a Robert Oster, but it has similar properties there. Number 4 now, I said great, warm, vibrant orange, and I have to agree with that. Amazing shading, great flow and wetness, and it's that feel on the page and that sort of style of orange that makes me think this is a Monteverde ink. I'm putting my money there. I've also said Noodlers here because Noodlers have a lot of like oranges in this family, but this doesn't feel as aggressive as a Noodlers ink. Monteverde inks can be kind of aggressive, and actually if we look at the swatch of this one on the Rhodia here, you can see there's like little bits where it's trying to feather a little bit, and it's just a little bit more aggressive than say the others. But I do think it might be a Monteverde, and I've put that Fire Opal, Mandarin, or Citrine. I thought initially, like on first swatch, I thought maybe Copper Noir, but it's nowhere near as dark as that, as you'll see in a second. Very low water resistance, which also makes me think maybe Monteverde, especially definitely not Noodlers. So we have the original swatch here. And I'm saying this is definitely sort of an orange. Firstly, there is that Copper Noir from Monteverde, which I'm saying it's definitely not. It doesn't line up as well. It's nowhere near as brown. But I'm saying it's an orange because here is Matador from Diamine, which has some similarities in the mid-toning, that red that comes through. But this is my best bet, which is Mandarin Orange. My swatch is a little darker than Mandarin Orange, and I make all my swatches in basically the same way. So this is my original swatch. This is the swatch that I've done of this ink. This is the closest I have, and it definitely feels like a Monteverde, so that's kind of where I'm going with it. And then last, we get number 5. It's a black ink. It's a nice black, but a little undersaturated. It's okay, but there's no sheen, there's no shimmer, and perhaps a little dry. This isn't the kind of black I would find myself using a lot. As I've said, well, you can see there's decent sort of water resistance. It holds back, but it's not super wet. As I said, it's a little dry. My idea is that it's definitely not Lamy Platinum, Pilot, or Sailor, which are the main kind of inks I use. I put Monteverde here, but I don't know. There are a couple of Monteverde things like Raven Noir, which, or is it Coal Noir? One of those two. That is a nice sort of dusty black, which is kind of where I put this. It's not super, super black. But I really don't know. I really don't know. It's so hard. There are so many black inks on the market, and it's another black. So here is the swatch of this number 5 ink. And here's Lamy Black, which I don't think this is. It's a duller. Lamy Black has a nice sort of like shine to it, or a gloss. And there's Platinum Carbon Black, and it's definitely not that. It's nowhere near as black as Carbon Black. Here's Monteverde Midnight Black. You can see similarities there. I know this is black and we're seeing similarities in blacks to blacks, but particularly in the mid, once again, the mid-tone, they are similar. So I don't know. Like, it's a black ink, and while I say, yes, it's a little bit dry, it's got low-ish water resistance, all that kind of, well, mid to low water, let's say medium water resistance. It's not super saturated. It is dark. It's definitely not grey, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't know with this one. So it's going to be interesting to see. Okay, now we've come to the moment we've all been waiting for. And ink number 1 here. Let's see what this is. So I have the envelopes here. I'll open them and then reveal. Number 1 is Diamine Purple Edition 2023 Rainbow's End. So yeah, from the Inkvent calendar, Diamine. I thought it might have been a Diamine shimmer just because, there aren't as many brands who make shimmers sort of like this, and Diamine makes specialized ones, and this is kind of specialized, but I absolutely had no idea about Rainbow's End. As I said, I've not used the Inkvent calendars, but the more of them that I try, the more I really need to get into this. And I think this Christmas I will probably end up getting an Inkvent calendar just for the fun of it, even if I don't make videos about it, just for the fun of it. Okay, ink number 2, this beautiful multi-chrome ink, is Robert Oster Wind. Now, I did think it might have been a Robert Oster Wind. Now, that's from the Elements set that he brought out, Earth, Fire, Wind, and Water. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful ink. I think I actually have a sample of this somewhere, but yes, Robert Oster Wind, beautiful. Okay, number 3 now. Let's see what this is. As I said, my predictions were a Diamine or an Oster, and the ink is Lamy Tourmaline Limited Edition. Okay, this was 2021, something like that, limited edition to match the All-Star pen of the same name and color. Beautiful ink. I've actually used this ink a lot. I've never had it in a bottle. I think I've had cartridges of it, and I actually was using it relatively recently, but the color does match up really well with that color family that I really, really love. I just went and grabbed my original swatch of tourmaline that I've had in my collection for a while. I didn't swatch it as dark, or at least the ink wasn't as dark. Bit of sheen, but yeah, beautiful ink, isn't it? Just absolutely stunning. Okay, number 4 here. As I said, my prediction is a Monteverde, and I said fire opal, mandarin, or citrine. Less and less like citrine. It's a little dark perhaps for that, but let's see what it is. Number 4 ink is Monteverde Mandarin Orange. Okay, so I got that one. Praise be. I love this ink. I actually really love this ink. It's one of my favorite Monteverdes. I use it on a semi-regular basis. I don't use a whole lot of orange, but it is a beautiful orange because it's got that really lovely, rich, dark color. So big fan of this ink. Okay, lastly, we have a black ink. Yes, a black ink. I have no idea what black this could be. Every brand just about has a black. I've used so many of them. I'm guaranteed it's not one of the ones I use all the time. Like, I know that much because it is just different to the, as I said, the 3 or 4 that I use regularly. Let's see what this is. Okay, number 5 is Esterbrook Ebony. I've not tried any of the Esterbrook inks. They've been on my kind of wish list to try. They've got an interesting sort of a small range of inks in their lineup, and I love the Esterbrook pens. It says Esterbrook. But yeah, interesting. Okay, really interesting. I'll have to try more of their inks. I would never have picked that in a million years. Okay, so that brings this blind ink test to a close today. Thank you so much for watching, and a big thank you to Pulp Addiction for playing along and providing these ink samples for this video and for testing me. It's stressful and I love it. But today the inks were: number 1 was Rainbow's End, number 2 was Robert Oster Wind, number 3 was Lamy Tourmaline, number 4 was Monteverde Orange, and number 5 here was Esterbrook Ebony. They are beautiful inks. Lovely combination, and a lovely sort of setup of different colors that had me confused and intrigued. I was able to guess a couple of like brands based on, you know, obviously like what I know is around and who is doing what. So like, you know, shimmers like this are, you know, not every brand is doing them. Multi-chromers, not every brand is doing them, and there are certain brands that do them particularly well. And things like with the Monteverde, the feel of the ink and the way it performs on the page and looks, like, I'm just kind of used to that. I've used a lot of Monteverde. I love their inks. So this was really interesting. I hope you found it interesting. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, hit the notifications button. It all helps the algorithm and helps me continue to make these videos for you as my channel continues to grow. Once again, a massive thank you to all the team, especially Kylie there at Pulp Addiction. You are all amazing. So until next time, enjoy your inks, and I'll talk to you soon.